Welcome to Trucking Tributes. I'm your host for Trucking Tributes, Susan Patten. And today on Trucking Tributes, I am super stoked. I'm always excited about Trucking Tributes in general. But this guest has me absolutely thrilled because he has been a friend of long standing of Wreaths Across America. And they have got a very, very special event coming up with Kenworth. Please welcome to the show, Trucking Tributes, Brad Bentley of Fastport. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Susan. Good to be on with you today. Excited about all the news we're going to talk about.
Oh, I know. It really is exciting. Kind of gives me a little bit of goosebumps. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of your event and what is going on out in Ohio, I want you to unpack for our listeners how it is that Brad Bentley even got associated with the trucking industry to begin with.
Ooh, boy, that goes back to the late 1980s. I graduated from the University of Alabama. I had a degree in communications. I was trying to be on the business side of television. So I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, worked for a year over there, trying to get some practical experience to build up my resume. Ran into a guy that I grew up playing with and against, mostly in baseball as a kid. And he had landed a job at a publishing company in Birmingham, Alabama. They were looking for some folks that was closer to where I grew up, and ended up over there working on a magazine that sold used construction equipment through auctions. And about 6 months into that, they were going to start a magazine that would be distributed at truck shows. There were a lot of regional truck shows, much smaller than like Mid-America and things like that back in the 80s and 90s. So that was called Truck Show Times. That was my introduction into the industry. I did that for about 6.5 years of what I would just call telemarketing, smiling and dialing, trying to sell driver recruiting advertising. Eventually worked for some other publishing companies, got into management, and have stayed with it here. What am I? Wow, 30 something years later. But that's how I got started.
I love that. Now tell me a little bit about Fastport. Who are you? How do you operate? Where are you operating? What are you all about?
So Fastport is a technology company. We build digital tools for veteran service organizations. I was introduced to Fastport when I was at the Truckload Carriers Association a little over 10 years ago. They were looking for some of our members to come in and make pledges to hire veterans. Corporate America had been challenged by Department of Defense to step up because the unemployment rates were so high. So that's how I got to Fastport. And we've had a nice evolution over the last decade or so that I've been there. We're probably best known for creating the resume engine for hiring our heroes, which will convert a military job into civilian language. But we're proud also that our technology has been used, for example, with Wreaths Across America to create an e-commerce platform. So it's been exciting to see all the different applications and ways we've been able to touch people, get meaningful civilian employment, but also put organizations like Wreaths where they can have better outreach and give people more opportunities to be able to make donations and get involved with their local cemeteries.
Brad, there are so many segments of the population out there that can use support and guidance. Why are military veterans? Why is that so close to you and the folks at Fastport?
Well, I think for me personally, my father was World War II. He was one of 17 children who grew up during the Depression, 11 boys, 6 girls. 10 of the boys served in either World War II or the Korean War. And it was almost weird as a kid because you knew that had happened between your father, your uncles, all these people, but they never talked about it. And he passed away about 25 years ago. There were still so many things that I never knew, things that I've learned about, later in life. So it was a little bit of a passion project for me personally when Fastport provided the opportunity when I left Truckload Carriers to come run their company. And it fit nicely into the people who were already at Fastport. Our CEO, Bill McLennan, was a Marine. And there's just a lot of different connections we've made along the way. So I like to tell people, I chased money for a long time. I had a power position at one point, but the work I've done for the last decade is very rewarding. And it's important. And it's not just us finding jobs. There's an ecosystem that's out there. Wreaths Across America is a huge part of that. because there are so many people that want to do things to try to help not only veterans, but the transitioning service members, the military spouses, military families. It's a big community for sure.
I absolutely love the hiring our heroes component, though, Brad, because as we know, especially through the trucking industry has recognized that our veterans make exceptional employees, and they do so for many, many reasons. Talk a little bit more about the Hiring for Heroes program and how it works.
Well, again, this was another one of those initiatives that started about the same time, uh, going back to the Department of Defense and wanting to kind of uh, tackle that unemployment issue. Uh, there's no sense in sugarcoating it. They were paying about $1 billion a year in unemployment claims. They wanted to see that number to go down for what people like to say, to spend more money on bullets and beans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of initiatives, but there were three big ones, in my opinion, that started about that time. You had something coming out of the White House under the administration at that point called Joining Forces. You had another initiative that was led by a lot of the big employers on Wall Street called the Veteran Jobs Missions, and they wanted to hire 100,000 veterans. And then you had the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation start Hiring Our Heroes. The difference in Hiring Our Heroes versus some of the other groups is their strategy was to catch people what we would call left of transition.
Mm-hmm.
So physically going to the installations, not just in the continental US, but OCONUS or outside the continental US as well, and meeting them before they go through the TAP process, letting them know there are a lot of great companies who are out there that need their skill sets. And it's just really grown and evolved over this past decade. They've started corporate fellowship programs. They've enhanced the resume engine technology. They go to more and more locations every year. And we've just been blessed to be able to be kind of attached to their hip along the way, and looking forward to some of the stuff that's coming up with them in the future. This time next month, we're going to be over in Europe. We'll be hitting installations in Germany and also the UK. Next February, we'll be in Japan. Late October, we'll be in Hawaii. All these places where those service members that are either stationed there or deployed, they don't have some of the advantages that people in communities for other organizations can reach. So that's where the depth and breadth of Hiring Our Heroes really comes in handy. And it's been a fun ride for us along the last decade for sure.
It's really an exceptional program, as we know from our connections with the military veterans and the trucking industry and so forth. That transition is not always an easy piece for our military veterans, and they need that support. And I mean, they understand what their skill sets are in terms of military service, but to then, in fact, translate that and transition into the commercial world and have that valuable career available to them is such an important service to provide to our military veterans. Really exceptional. I'm speaking with Brad Bentley of Fastport on Trucking Tributes today. We want to thank the folks at Radio Nemo for having us on this morning. And Fastport has been a huge partner with Wreaths Across America. We have developed a wonderful relationship over the years, a valued relationship. And one of the reasons we've got you on the show this morning, Brad, is to talk about a fabulous event that you have coming up at the National Veterans Memorial Museum in Ohio. Let's unpack all that for our listeners.
Yeah, and I think this is a good way to go back to the previous question as well. It's no coincidence that our event in Columbus, Ohio next week is during National Truck Driver Appreciation Week.
Yes.
That was intentional, if you will. We know it competes with a lot of different things, but anytime we can put a spotlight on our industry, we think that is a good thing. But you talked about skill sets being valued in different industries that would want to hire people coming out of the military. And it's important for Fastport to make sure we keep trucking really in front of these transitioning service members. One of the things that we've learned over time is we would go out and conduct workshops, and we would be there at the hiring fairs or the networking receptions, and we're having conversations with people. there were a fair percentage of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines that would come up to us, and we talk about some different opportunities that were available. A lot of them would be entry level type positions, whether that's truck driver, diesel mechanic, freight broker, etc. And we would have people say, you know what, I really want to own my own business. I think I can be an entrepreneur. So we went back to the drawing board on that, and we said, what could we come up with where not only can we get people to come into the industry, but they're rewarded for doing that. And we try to provide that entrepreneurial path for them. I had been involved with a previous employer, Randall Riley, who's still around in the trucking industry, and they had the Great American Trucking Show back in the day. And we had a program there called Trucking's Top Rookie. It didn't have anything to do specifically with veterans, but it was a good way to recognize people coming into the industry, get their stories told. And it helped trucking companies not only recruit, but also retain people when they could provide that type of recognition. So we really built upon that. And we said, let's up the ante. That Truck and Stop Rookie program had a cash prize. We said, what would be a game changer that would truly set somebody up to be their own small business owner? And we said, what if we had a Class A truck donated? So we went to what we thought was the appropriate OEM for that, the only American-owned truck manufacturer that is out there, parent company being PACCAR. You have Kenworth and you have Peterbilt as their two brands. And we went to Peterbilt. We had some to Kenworth. We had some relationships there, and they were gracious enough to get us started. And they donated, this was back in 2016, a Kenworth T680 truck for a contest that we came up with called Transition Trucking Driving for Excellence. So we're now on our 10th year for this. Kenworth has been with us every step of the way. So I can safely say I know we have changed a lot of people's lives. We've seen some of those early winners go on and start small fleets. Some people have moved into management, but they were able to scratch that entrepreneurial itch, and we put them in a good position to do that. We're very proud of it. But along the way, we said there has to be a process involved with this. So we would get the nominations in, and the next step in that is we have a selection committee. There's a lot of people on it from every aspect of the industry, everything from the driver training side, the legal side, insurance, federal agencies, and so forth. And they help us narrow that pool of candidates down. The number will vary each year based on the number of nominations. This year, we have 12 semifinalists. And I'll finally get to what you asked me about, which is what's happening next week.
I'm getting just all this. This is marvelous.
But we originally would have an event at the Bush Presidential Library and Museum in Dallas for our semifinalists because it was tied in with another industry event that was out there at the time, which was a Great American Trucking Show. That all went away after COVID, or when COVID hit. So for the past 4 years, we were fortunate enough through a relationship we had with Hiring Our Heroes. A good friend of ours, Marty Holder, made the move from there to go to work for the National Veterans Museum and Memorial in Columbus, Ohio. You mentioned this to me prior to the interview. I know you had a chance to visit there a while back. An amazing facility. And when we went up to look at it, frankly, we just fell in love with it. And the main reason why, I live in New Orleans, right? I have the World War II Museum down here. I have been to military museums all over the world. And one thing that's pretty consistent in most of them is you see a lot of, let's just call it machinery, whether it's, ammunition, whether it's tanks or jeeps or aircraft or whatever it may be. You don't find that at the National Veterans Museum and Memorial in Columbus, Ohio. It is about the history of military service, and it is a storytelling museum. So when we saw that, we said, that's what we're here to do. Our Transition Trucking Driving for Excellence recognition dinner is really about highlighting the stories, the military service, the transition into the industry, what they've done as a driver, their observations of the industry, what they're doing in their community. And it's the favorite thing I do every year. And we will be at that museum as long as they will have us. we think it's been great. And we've just tried to enhance the program every year, bring some different things to the table. And we went back and forth on this, hoping that the timing was going to work out, made a request to get the Wreaths Across America education exhibit to be at the museum the week that we're going to be there. And it will be coming up from Marshall, Texas next week. We're looking forward to having everybody have the opportunity to go through and see that. Very excited about that partnership. So that's what we'll be doing this time next week.
The museum is absolutely beautiful in Columbus, Ohio, and your point so well taken that it is a storytelling museum. And just love Mason and Marnie and the crew out there. And to let our folks listening on Trucking Tributes today know as well that the National Veterans Memorial Museum in Columbus, Ohio, is one of our teach partners for Wreaths Across America. And they have a fabulous education program available to educators throughout the country. You can find them and a link to their museum and their education resources on our webpage for the teach program, wreathsacrossamerica.org/teach. And they have marvelous, marvelous offerings. And Mason is just so skilled at doing virtual tours of the museum. So if you can't actually get there in person to visit out in Ohio and see that lovely memorial outside as well, then he is able to take you on a tour of the museum and very adept at doing that. And we are so pleased to be partnering them with the Teach program and grateful to know that you've got the mobile education exhibit out there as well. So Brad Bentley with Fastport on Trucking Tributes today. I'm your host, Susan Patten. Want to thank the folks at Radio Nemo for getting us those extra ears out there today. And I want to know what the itinerary looks like. So what's the plan? How have you got Kenworth involved, and what's going to be going down?
So the truck itself, the T680 that will be given away in December in Washington, D.C., will roll up to the museum about noon or so on Thursday. The drivers and some of their supporters, whether that's their nominators from a driver training school, whether it's someone from their fleet, they'll arrive early afternoon. We have a photo and video crew who will be there to get some pictures of them going around the truck. We certainly want to take them over, give them the opportunity to see the Wreaths Across America education exhibit that afternoon as well. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, we're going to take everybody on a group tour, a guided tour through the museum so that some of their docents can point out various things, and then we allow people to have some time to see things at their own pace as well. That evening, we recognize all the supporters, all of the sponsors that made it possible for us to be able to put on the Transition Trucking Driving for Excellence contest. And we go right into the program. We tell the stories of those 12 men and women, what they did in the military, how they made it to the trucking industry. And as always, there just are some really tremendous stories that come out of that. We have a lot of veteran service organizations who are going to be joining us, and we'll end the night with a preview from Kenworth of what will happen the next day, because the manufacturing plant where the T680 truck is made is just down the road in Chillicothe, Ohio. And we have utilized that facility for the past few years. It used to be at an adjacent facility called the MHC Road Ready Center, but now Kenworth has added some event space at the actual manufacturing plant. So we're all kind of encapsulated there under one roof. That morning, we'll have the Radio Nemo team there doing interviews to kick off the day. We will do a guided tour about 45 minutes so they get to see from the ground up how these trucks are built. And then we come back, and it's the most exciting and also probably the most painful thing that we do, because we have to make the announcement that morning of who the finalists will be that will move forward with Transition Trucking Driving for Excellence. We're going to have 4 finalists this year. We already know that based on the scores from our selection committee. So we'll make that announcement that morning, do some more photo and video shoots, and everybody goes about the merry way. But they'll all leave with some prize packs, and Fastport steps up and covers the travel and things for the finalists who move forward. And then we start working on their campaigns in conjunction with a couple of companies out there that provide some videos and things for social media. And then there is a public voting component of this. that kicks off and ends on Veterans Day. And then once we get the public votes combined with the original scores from the selection committee, we know who our winner and runners up are going to be. Then we start making arrangements for family members and different folks to be present in Washington, D.C. when we hand over the keys to the Kenworth T680. And I get excited every time I talk about it.
Well,
You
this
know,
is exciting. I know. I've got I've got goosebumps and so many questions broiling in my head. So let me see if I can get them in order. First of all, the public voting concept and component of the competition. How does it work? So who can vote? How are they voting?
Anybody can vote. What we leave it up to the fleets, the individuals, the driver training schools. Again, we provide them with a lot of information. People can vote once a day. But what we've seen in the past, it's been the amount of traffic and the amount of votes that each individual finalist put up every year is astounding, because people have got very creative. They reach back out to their former units. They get their branch of service involved. The trucking companies will reach out to their shippers. The driver training schools will reach out to their community. They're calling up their cousins that they haven't talked to in 10 years, right? And everybody gets behind them because, again, it's a life-changing asset. You're talking about something that's valued well above $150,000. Even the ones who finish as a runner-up, they get cash prizes. So it's worth the effort for everybody. But more than anything else, it also keeps engagement going for our industry, for people making that transition, for those veteran employment resource groups, all these different people that feel like they have a stake in this, because they really do. It takes a village to raise a child, is the saying that people like to say. And we've seen some really amazing things happen over the years when it comes to the public voting and the people that get involved. But they will pull out all stops to get the numbers up there. And then again, by mid-November, we know who's going to be getting those keys, and we do everything we can at that point. We alert the fleet so they know. We get temporary insurance set up. We find out, usually through some previous methods, if that person would be interested in getting a business degree. We have a national university over the years that stepped up providing that as an opportunity. OIDA is involved in this. They will put them through their Truck to Success program on the back end. So we make sure all of those people confidentially know who the winner is going to be. And we have a lot of support in the room. And it's a special day every year. It's the day before we lay wreaths at Arlington too. So that's intentional, by the way. When we did this 10 years ago, one of the things that we wanted to do as we brought people to Washington, D.C., was to encourage them to stick around and experience the magic of Arlington. And we'll always do that the day before Wreaths Across America Day, whether it changes from the second Saturday to the third Saturday or back. It does not matter to us. That truck will always be given away the day before we lay wreaths at Arlington.
Oh, again, the goosebumps are just swelling, and it's just marvelous. Speaking with Brad Bentley with Fastport, talking about the Transition Trucking Driving for Excellence Recognition Program. And I mean, all of your 12 semifinalists should be proud as peacocks to begin with, to think that they have gotten that far. Now, is there a specific criteria that you are looking for to narrow those semifinalists down to that final winner? What's that criteria that you're looking for?
There's a few things that are non-negotiable, if you will. We have a specific time frame. So what we do every year is it's an 18-month window from when someone comes into the industry until the nomination period closes. So to make the math work for that, we've always closed our nominations at the end of June every year. So for this year's contest, that means anybody who entered the industry January 1st, 2024, up until the end of June, is eligible to be nominated. They can self-nominate, driver training school that trained them, and we get a lot of nominations that way. The trucking companies, a lot of different ways that people can put forth their candidates. We look at a lot of different things, and I say we, meaning the selection committee. Fastport has nothing to do with choosing the winner. I want to make sure that's very clear. But they check their MVRs. They certainly want to see that these are safe drivers. The DD 214 is definitely checked, which is the form when people transition out of the military. There's a lot of information contained in that. The biggest thing they look for is they want to make sure they're honorably discharged but a lot of times their commendations and medals and different things will be listed. And service members in general often don't talk about themselves. We do have an essay component. We give them the opportunity to kind of tell their own story. Again, some people struggle with that. Some people are great about it, which is why we also do the same thing for their nominators. People can give them support letters. We've had people shoot videos, send in all kind of crazy stuff. They send us photography, and we've seen it not become a template. There's always different personalities, but there's really a lot that goes into, and I think wearing my selection committee hat for a second, the feedback that we've got, they're definitely looking for what they've observed about the industry, on-time delivery percentages, how many loads they've delivered. All of those things mean something. Are they doing something? Are they giving back? Are they helping other veterans find a home in the trucking industry? All of those things are looked at. So there's no magic formula. You get some very well-rounded people. You have a lot of folks that, were combat veterans that served 25 years, and you have other people that have come out that were only in for 4 or 6 or 8. There's been a lot of stereotypes broken over time because people thought, it's only going to be the mega fleets that win it. And we've had small oil field tanker carriers win it. We've had a female winner. We've had all of these different things. So the cream also always rises to the top, right? That's what it really
always
boils down to every year. The selection committee always gets it right, but it's hard to narrow that down. And I do not envy them, but we definitely appreciate them.
No, absolutely do not. That is just marvelous. What a fabulous program. Very, very exciting. There's going to be quite a buzz in Columbus, Ohio with all the goings on. And then, boy, the goosebumps just leading up to the finalist in November. We think we have a lot going on at Wreaths Across America. Boy, you've got the buzz going on behind the scenes as well, leading up to National Wreaths Across America Day. So that is truly, truly exciting stuff. Brad, what are we not touching on that you think is super important to relay to our listeners today on Trucking Tributes?
I think we've covered a lot of things. I will just say I'm looking forward to seeing Courtney George, the Tatums, everybody that's representing Reese being part of this process next week. I think the most important thing for me and why we're so passionate with what we do at Fastport is if you looked back 10 years ago with surveys that people like Hiring Our Heroes were doing, the transportation sector was one of those that's recognizable because it's generally been military friendly. We have done our part to make sure that continues. We do a Veteran Ready Summit as a prelude to the truck giveaway and Wreaths Across America Day every year because we have to keep our industry front and center. There are a lot of companies that want to do more. We want to be in a position to help them out, get their people trained, resources for like veteran employment resource groups, how they can get involved in their own communities. Something like a Wreaths Across America is a great example of that. But that's where we're always going to be in this space. It takes us all working together. Again, going back to my point earlier about we view this as how can we continue to be good partners for Reese, and that's where the timing of a lot of this comes about. And we'll continue to do that as long as I'm president of Fastport. I can tell you that.
Well, we've had a marvelous relationship with you, and we are humbled and grateful, as you know, for the partnership that we have had. Brad Bentley, Fastport, Transition Trucking, Driving for Excellence, Kenworth, National Veterans Memorial and Museum. Thank you all from the bottoms of our hearts, and thank you for being, Brad, today a part of Trucking Tribute so we can spread the word about this amazing program.